Hi and thanks for watching. In this set of tutorials what we're going to do is we're going to write and design a game called NIM, and it's going to be you versus the computer. The game NIM itself actually it's a variation of NIM. So we're going to do a simpler version, and if you fancy doing the full scale version then please go ahead. But the concept of NIM is that you have a set of matchsticks or a set of counters or whatever, and the idea is that it's the person to take the last counter that loses. Now, there are usually rules around how many counters you can take, and in our game, what we're going to say is that you can take a maximum of 3. And so therefore the person that ends up with the last one is the loser. Okay, so it's a very simple game. There's not going to be multiple rows, because that's really the game of NIM, is where there's multiple rows, but we're just going to have one row with a random amount of matches of which you can take a maximum number of 3. And the reason we're just going down this path is because the mathematics involved for the computer are nice and easy to discuss, but actually they're not that difficult when you move to multiple rows. But I'm thinking we'll keep it simple, and then we can potentially build on that for version 2. And we're going to make this a web-based game, so you can deploy it on the web, or indeed if you feel encouraged, you could even take a stab at putting it on the Google Play Store or on the iPhone store if you wish. What's the iPhone store? I don't know. I don't have an Apple. I don't know. I'm not sure. There we go. But whatever it is, you can also do that as well, because we'll be using Unity. And as long as you don't make $150,000, I think, or more, then you'll be able to do that for free. If you start making that kind of money from this game, then I suggest you buy a Unity license. But everything else should be okay. So what we'll do is we'll model out the matchsticks, and we'll model out a table to put them on. We'll use some real physics as well. So when the actual matchsticks are on the table, they'll drop onto a table, and we'll just kind of randomly remove them as that person selects 1, 2 or 3. From a computer's perspective, there's actually a very simple way to win this game. So once you get to a certain number, it's impossible to lose. Basically divisions of 4. We'll talk about that later on. It's not very difficult, but for now let's just get started and model some stuff, because I know that's really why you're here, is to do the modeling, isn't it? So let's get Blender loaded and get a matchstick modeled. Okay, so we're going to model a couple of things here. We're going to model a table and a matchstick, which are both very, very simple. You can go a bit to town on the table if you want, but a matchstick is extremely easy to model, and we'll texture that out in Substance Painter as well, just to give it a little bit of an edge. We could go for something very simple, but to be honest with you, this whole game could be in 2D, but we're going to do it in 3D for fun. We're going to use some physics and learn some stuff as we go. So we'll do the matchstick and the table. I'm actually going to create a little environment as well, potentially, with some walls and floor, but I might just make that very simple and use a very basic texture for that, just to get us started. Right, so let's talk about the matchstick. This is going to be very, very simple. So we've already got our default cube here, and we can use that for our matchstick. All we'll do is we'll say scale, and then if we just press Shift Z, that will actually scale it on both axes apart from the Z axis, which in the Blender world is the vertical axis. So let's just scale that to a rough size that we like, and let's just press 1 to go to front view, numpad 1, excuse me, go to front view, and numpad 5 to go to orthographic. Scroll in. Now, to me, that's still a little bit thick for a match, so let's just scale and do Shift Z again. Just kind of scale it into something like that. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that for a stick. Like I say, we're not going to go to town here. And also, let's just tab into edit mode, Control Tab 3, or you can just click face down here if you wish. But I'll just delete that face there, because it's never going to be seen. And then what I'll also do is, while I'm at it, I'll also unwrap it now. Okay, so let's just I'll add the seams now. So Control E, mark seam there, and we might as well do it on the face down here. Control E, mark seam. Alright, so we've just got ourselves a very simple unwrap there. We can just have a quick look at it. I'd imagine I've got to go Tab, Control A, rotation and scale. You know I like to do that if you follow any of my other videos. Let's bring up the UV image editor, just tab in, select all, you unwrap, and there we go. That's about as clean an unwrap as you're ever going to see. So it's all looking good there. So let's add the, what do you call the top bit, the sulfur, the sulfur strike, which will obviously be red. Actually, no, not obviously be red, because sometimes it's brown, isn't it? Excuse me. We're going to go for red though. So what I'll do is I'll just Alt right click this top piece here to select the top 4 edges and press Shift S, cursor to selected, and what that'll do is that'll put it bang in the middle of the 4 dots there, and also on the same vertical point. So now if we just do Shift A, I'm in edit mode by the way, Shift A, add UV sphere, it puts an enormous sulfur strike. That would cause an explosion, wouldn't it, if it was that big? So what we'll do is, first of all, just go down here. I think, to be honest with you, can probably half this and go to 16 by 8. Okay, that's more than enough. We can go into this dot here. Let's just do Z, click that one and press X vertices to get rid of those. Just save a bit of space, and let's start thinking about scaling this down. So I'll just click one dot there and press L to select all, and we'll start scaling this down. Okay, you can see something like that, and then we'll grab it on the Z axis, scale it on the Z axis actually while we're at it to something that looks more like a matchstick. That's pretty good, isn't it? Okay, you can play around with this as you go. So then we'll just scale that down again, just press Z and start having a look. That looks pretty close, maybe a touch bigger, maybe. And also what we need to do as well is just go over to here, under shading UVs, click on faces smooth. Okay, how does that look? Well, I can tell you that looks absolutely fine to me. I think I might make that just a touch bigger. Now, how are we looking? You can play with this all day until you're thinking, yeah, maybe scale it Shift Z so that it just, no, not the whole thing, excuse me. Scale Shift Z so it pull it in a bit. Yeah, you know what, that's a fine looking match. Now the one thing that might catch us out here is unwrapping this, but so we'll need to go to town here because it's going to be pretty small, isn't it? It's a match, so we'll just add 4 seams, I think. So we'll just do front, Alt Shift right click, Alt Shift right click, Alt Shift right click, and then we'll just do Control E, mark seam. And now if we say A, U, unwrap, there we go, we've got ourselves everything unwrapped. And if I just press N on the UV layout here and just click on the stretch, we can take a look and see how badly these guys are stretched, and the answer is not too badly at all. Okay, you can see that there, that's not too bad. In fact, what we can do as well is we can grab these guys. If I just do Control Tab 4 to do Island Select, and just grab them and just maybe Shift click them all and just scale them up. I don't know quite why we need to do this, but we might as well. Excuse me. And we can just press Shift Space to bring that whole screen up. I'll just start grabbing these over. Actually, grab them down, right? Grab one down there. Get them nice and close together, but not touching. I don't like them to touch. Okay, do that again. Let's scale them up. There, they'll be. That's an enormous. I might just rotate them as well, just make them a little bit more flat. Something like that. Okay, that's a perfectly fine unwrap for our matchstick. So let's just save this. So what we'll do is we'll create a new folder under Blender, for now at least. Documents, Blender. We'll create a new folder. So we'll call this NIM. Now I know a few of you are going to get cross with me calling it NIM, but we can always put a NIM version in here as well, can't we? Where there are multiple rows. Because I know this isn't a pure version of NIM. So, but it's a basic version, isn't it? And we'll call it Matchstick, right? Matchstick.blend. Okay, good. So we've saved it up there, and let's export it. File, export, FBX. It should be matchstick.fbx. There we go. Just click on selected objects and experimental apply transform, and then click export FBX. Okay, that's good. Oh, the one thing, hang on, before we do that, let's just press N over here to bring up the properties and just do Control A, rotation and scale again. What I'd like to do is just change the size. Where's this? So we need to click on, is it this one? No, the one before it, this one here, world scene settings, and we'll change the length to metric. Okay, and this will show you now the size of this stick, and at the minute it's 32 centimeters by 32 by 2.5. Now I can say 32 centimeters is about a foot, so that would be one enormous matchstick. So I think a matchstick is about 3 centimeters high. Okay, so we're going to scale this. Actually, what we probably do is just to scale to 0.1. And you know what? I'm going to go with that. I know it's tiny, you know, and tough to model, but I think to keep things honest, I think we're going to stay with 3.2 centimeters. It's possibly a bit large for a match, but it doesn't matter. because yeah, we can always do a little bit of work in Unity, but I wanted to get it in roughly in the right scale. So let's export that again. I think we should do that. Export FBX. Matchstick to FBX. It will complain because it already exists, but that's fine. It should have already done selected objects and apply transform, which it has. Just click Export FBX. Okay, right, now then, so with that made, shall we go and texture this straight away, or do you want to do the table? Let's texture this right now, and then what we'll do is in the very next tutorial, I'll keep these tutorials nice and short, and in the next tutorial we'll do the table, and then in the third tutorial we'll go ahead and start importing this stuff into Unity. So I'll go and get Substance Painter loaded and be right back. Okay, it took me a little bit longer to load Substance Painter than I expected because they've just brought out a new version, 2.5.0. I haven't fully checked out the new features. I think there's some new settings around performance, some new brushes and things. But for me, the thing that's still probably missing is the ability to merge texture sets. I won't go into too much into that, but I know this is a big ask from a lot of people, and the ability to hide parts of the mesh as well, so you can paint them underneath. Those would be great things, but for now we're going to be using 2.5.0. For those of you that don't have this, there is actually a demo version available. Let me just find that for you now. Okay, here we are. It's algorithmic.com. So if you just type Substance Painter trial, you'll be able to download 2.5.0 and try it for 30 days. So if you're following along with this tutorial and you can't afford it, I think I've mentioned this a few times before, this application. It's just too good an application not to use for those people like myself who aren't particularly great at texturing and want to get something good out, relatively quickly. It's brilliant for that. I think if you're a really true artist, you can do great things regardless. But let me just show you the demo of what they've got here. This was created using Substance Painter. That to me is staggering. I think to me, looking at that, they'd be convinced that was a real life image. But I mean, obviously the texture sizes in this are enormous, but still, that's just an indication of what you can do now. And yeah, truly incredible stuff. So we won't be going anywhere near that level, simply because I haven't got the talent to do that. But we'll certainly use it to create a very realistic looking matchstick, yes, with small steps. So let's just go File, New, and we'll bring up our well, the other thing apparently you can do with this now is you've got your Unity 5 option. Look here under the templates. This is a good new feature, this, so we can now when we do our exports, it'll export them in Unity 5 material formats, if you like. That'll make a bit more sense a bit later on. So we'll bring up our NIM folder. Is it actually there? No. So just bring up documents. I'm on OneDrive. Look, blessed OneDrive. Blender, and then NIM. I guess OneDrive's useful for some people, but frustrating for me. Right, sorry, excuse me. Matchstick.fbx, and there we'll click on Open. For now, document resolution can certainly be 1024, given the size. You could even go 512 if you're planning on making this a mobile game. The thing is, you see, of course, because it's only one texture and you're going to be using it for multiple matchsticks, it's not going to use up a huge amount of memory, so you can go 512 or 1024. It's up to you. So let's click OK, and that'll bring up our beautiful matchstick, I hope. There it is. Look at that. Wonderful. Doesn't it look fabulous? Okay, so just something else that's changed. If I just go to Viewer Settings down here on the, just up the environment opacity. There we go. Just to give it a bit of a background, so we can see what we're working against. And you can adjust the blur if you like, so it's very sharp. In fact, there's a whole bunch of backgrounds you can use. I don't really care. I just need to see it against something else. Floating matchstick in the field is absolutely fine by me. So let's go back to texture set settings, because the one thing you always have to do in Substance Painter is bake the textures. What this does is it creates some textures for you, normal maps, height maps, ambient occlusion maps, all of these things here, so you can export them into Unity. So let's get this going. The only thing, so I'm going to make these 1024. 1024 is absolutely fine, and we'll go for anti-aliasing 2x2, and that'll smooth out some of these edges here. It doesn't matter hugely. In fact, actually, I'm going to go for 4x4, which will take a lot longer. So I will pause it, and that just kind of gives you a little bit more to work with. It kind of configures the maps a bit better. I can't explain it very well because I don't really understand it very well, but I do know that I get better results if I go for 4x4. It might not matter for such a small res model. So let's click Bake Materials, and I will pause it and come back when it's finished. Okay, that was actually quite quick, so it must have been a low-res model, or possibly the new version is quicker than it was before. So we've clearly got two pieces to this matchstick. We've got the wood and the sulfur piece here. So what we'll do is we'll create a couple of folders, one for the wood and one for the sulfur. So I'll get rid of this layer here. Just click on that trash can, and we'll click on this little folder icon. Hopefully you can see these, and we'll call this the wood, shall we? And in here, well, for now we'll just add a very simple text. If we just go to, is it Smart Materials? Let's just see what we've got. And if we just click over here and just type wood, what have we got? Why are these taking so long to load? Come on, they are taking their time, aren't they? This was supposed to be quicker. That's brilliant, isn't it? There we go. I'm not sure what. Maybe this is a first-time thing. Maybe it'll be a lot quicker once it's run. I don't like any of those. Let's just try wood beach, shall we? Just have a look. Just drag that into the wood folder. Oh, that's fine. You can see that's exactly the sort of thing we're after. Obviously, the strike there is also wood right now. We'll fix that in a few seconds. But for me, do you know what? Out of the box, absolutely fine. Possibly make that a little bit rougher, maybe. I'll show you how to do that in a second. So let's just make sure that we add a mask here. So we'll just click on the wood folder that we created and select Add Black Mask. That'll clear everything out. So now what we need to do is we need to click on the black mask and go over to here. Is it this one? Polygon fill, that's it. And now it'll let us select which UVs we want the wood to apply to. And what we can do here is if you click UV, I think that's they call it UV chunk, don't they? UV chunk fill. And I think if I just click that now, there you go. It's selected that UV chunk. You should see because it's kind of its own little island. It's not attached to anything else. That's worked very, very well indeed. Good. So spinning back to there, let's just try a few things and see if we can make this look a little bit rougher. Because I'd like this to look. It's certainly too shiny as well. So let's just go through some of the settings here. Base wood is some funky material that I don't think we can change. Wood fibres, here we go. What have we got here? What can we do with that? There we go. We can make that. I'd like to try and get that right down there. That's certainly very rough, isn't it? Maybe too much. You get the idea. You get the idea. We could play with this. I'm going to leave that as it is. The only one thing I'm going to do, actually, maybe be able to use this one, is add some dirt to it. And this here, grunge map, is just maybe just try and change the balance and things like that. Let's just have a little look. See, yeah, it's not great. That's fine. That's absolutely fine. Possibly now it's looking a bit too dark there. That's cool. That looks a lot like a stick to me, a matchstick. Hasn't it done the bottom one? No, because we didn't select the UV chunk, did we? So let's click down here and just click on that. There we go. I don't know that that's ever going to be facing the right way. But I don't really care. If anybody ever spots that, then they're welcome to bring that up in the game. Right, so that's that. So let's work on the sulfur. So we'll create another folder in here, and this should be very, very simple actually. Well, so what should we call this? Should we call this the strike, or should we call it the salt? I'm going to call it the strike for now. And into that, I'm just going to very simply add a fill layer, one of these guys, and just drag that into the strike there, and we're going to make it red. Okay, now obviously that's done everything else, so we need to apply a similar rule. Just click on there, and we'll add a black mask to our folder, and we'll click UV chunk, and click on the strike. Now, as you remember, we've got 4 pieces to this. Now, I thought that would actually do all. I thought I'd do all 4, so I've got UV chunk slightly messed up, confused there. Okay, and there's our red strike, but as you can see, it's way, 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 way too shiny. Right, so we can fix all this. This is the sort of thing. So I'll just call that red for now. Red. And we're going to adjust the roughness right down so it's much less shiny. And metallic's perfectly low enough. What's going on there? Did it bring that across? I'm not sure why that's doing that funky thing there. What on earth is that going on? So let's just bring that right down. I'm hoping that won't. Oh, let's just bring it out. Possibly because it's very small. It's having a bit of a weird effect. I'm going to make it darker as well. Okay, that's more like it. That's kind of more like the thing. It's having a very weird effect here, isn't it? I'm hoping that won't affect our export. You can see the other thing here. I don't know if you just saw that. Then it's kind of got a seam there. So let's just change this to triplanar. That's not done anything at all. So this is very curious to me. I can see the seams on a red strike. So I'm not sure whether that's because it's very, very small. I'm not too concerned about it for now. I'm just going to leave it as it is. But what I will do as well is add under the height. I'm going to unselect the normal, but under the height channel here, rather than go for this uniform colour, I'm going to go for. I usually go for fractal sum, which is my go-to for absolutely everything. And there you go. It kind of creates a very knobbly looking selection. But if we click on this red here now and just click on the height channel, we can get this right down. Just bring this down until we're happy that it's something that resembles a sort of stripe like that, right? And potentially what you can do as well is you can say UV scale, we can set that to 6 and just make it a little bit finer. And you know what, guys, I'm going with it. Who's ever going to complain about that matchstick? Do you know what I mean? That is a good looking matchstick, possibly too bright on the wood, possibly some weird shine on the strike, but hey, it is a perfectly good matchstick for me. Alright, so we're going to go with it, people. I love that. So let's just press Ctrl S to save this. Let's go to Blender Nim, and we'll save this as Matchstick. Okay, and for now we'll leave it, and in the next tutorial we'll model a very quick table. So I will start that right now and see you in the next video. All the best. Bye bye.